It's been around since 1890. 125 years later, the Thomas House Hotel in downtown Red Boiling Springs is still open for business today.
Back in 1890, the hotel was built and opened then, but before then, the Cloyd brothers that built the hotel was Zach, Thomas, and Henry. And they built it, but they actually owned a dry goods store here in Red Boiling, and then the business started booming. I think there was already a hotel called the Deadmans at that time. And people started coming for the waters, and they decided to go on and build a hotel, and they were quite successful with the hotel at that point.
And then how long did they own it approximately?
The Cloyds owned it until around the early 1900s, and they had a fire. It was a two-story wooden structure at that time, and it burnt to the ground. And then Mr. Cloyd passed away shortly thereafter, and it was sold to a group of men that were local here, and they called themselves the Association. And they came in and took it over, and they built the red brick building you see here today. And then, of course, it was finished in 1924. So this actual building's been here since 1924.
But this is the original site.
Yes. This is the original site. The original wooden structure, when it burnt, it was built on rock foundation, and the rock foundation is actually still under the lobby here. So if you go under the building, you can see the original foundation of the old building.
You've owned the hotel now, your family, for the last 22 or so years. What kind of interesting things have you learned about the building itself? You know, when you first bought it and you come in, maybe the floors aren't always real level, that kind of thing. But I mean, but what kinds of interesting tidbits maybe have you learned about this old place?
Well, the building, like I said, was built right here on the old foundation of the original building. All the wood was cut right here on their property, and it's built out of chestnut. And then all the bricks were actually fired and made right here on property, on site. So I thought that was quite interesting. And then it has been owned by so many different people over the years, but like I said, the Cloyds owned it, and then it was sold after Mr. Cloyd died, and the association took it over. And then after that, there was a guy named Mr. Hill that bought it, and he owned it for quite a few years. And then he sold it to a Dr. Hall, and Dr. Hall owned it, and then one of the great-grandsons of the Cloyds bought it back, Evan Moss, and he ran it and turned it into a boys' camp and called it Mossy Creek. Okay. So he owned it for years, and then there was another group that bought it from him, and they turned out to be a cult, and they called it the Anzara, and it was open for about 7 years, and then they disappeared in the middle of the night, and it sat here vacant for about 3 or 4 years, and then it went up for sale for back taxes. And there was a local gentleman, Mr. Raines, and he bought it, and a year later we bought it from him. So that's how we came about owning it.
As far as doing the research on this old hotel, did you find out that it was fairly vibrant during Red Boiling Springs' heyday, when there were so many hotels and bowling alleys and things of that nature?
Yes, it had a bowling alley, it had a dance hall, it had a 9-hole golf course, it had croquet, or you could play shuffleboard, and and it had its own big band. It was called the Cloyd Big Band at the time. And so we have pictures of all that type stuff, and it's real interesting all that went on. And it was a lot of famous people stayed here. We found out Kate Smith used to stay here. Woodrow Wilson actually stayed here. We've got a register with his name on it. And we've heard Dinah Shore's family used to come and stay here. So there was a lot of prominent people from Nashville that used to come and stay here. So it was a real booming place at one time.
You mentioned President Wilson. Was he actually here while he was president, or was it after maybe he had left the office?
I think it was right after he went into office he came here. Okay. So it was signed the book was signed by him and some of his cabinet members. So we have that.
This is one of the 3 hotels that still remain today. Does it surprise you that all of them are still here in a town that has probably struggled in recent years economically?
Yes, it's very interesting they're still here. So many of them burn over the years, and then of course in the probably the 30s, 40s, that's when it started dying out, and people started moving away, and there was 13 hotels here at one time and 32 boarding houses. So, and they said you used to have to, people would come to stay here and couldn't even get a room and they'd have to sleep in their cars. So, they called it Little Las Vegas. Trying to think.
The verdict's still out on that, I suppose. But talk about owning this place, and what do you? I'm sure it has challenges daily, but what do you like about owning this hotel, your family?
Meeting all the people. They come, so many people come here and they become family members. They come back constantly, and they're like adopted family.
Is it a challenge to keep it open? Because the economy did struggle mightily back in 2008, and still Red Blunt Springs might not be that destination town that it used to be. I mean, is it how much of a struggle is it to try to keep it open for your customers?
It is a big struggle. It really is. We have to have something going on at all times to keep people here. We do plays, dinner theater, we do ghost hunt weekends, and we have a lot of church retreats. Mm-hmm. And then we do dinner. You can call, make reservations for dinner. And then we're open every Sunday from 11 to 2. We have an open buffet, and you can come in and eat with us. Of course, our biggest thing that goes on here is the car show in September. Now, that's been on our property for 75 years. Oh, wow. And so that's one of our biggest draws in the summer in September. So that keeps us, going. And Christmas is always big for us. October, actually, though, has become our busiest time of the year because of the ghost hunting and stuff like that. So, but October and December are our two biggest times of the year.
Looking back, are you guys glad that you bought this old hotel and wanted to keep it open?
Yeah, we're really proud of it. I mean, we all quit jobs. We all had good jobs. We all had homes. We all quit our jobs, sold our homes, and cashed everything we in and put it into this business. And yeah, we're real proud of it because we love history. We've tried to keep it because of the history of it and didn't want to see anything happen to it.
A decision made by a family living in Nashville at the time that wound up pleasing so many Macon County history buffs, in addition to countless others who visit the Thomas House each year. Reporting in Red Boiling Springs, Barry Hyatt, NCTV.